Okay, let's pick up where we left off. Now, if you wish to watch a review video on all the layers of the skin, including some information on the accessory structures that we talked about, this is a video by the Amoeba Sisters. That is a really great review of what we just talked about. This table just provides also some an organization of what was mentioned already. So we talked about the functions for protection, as well as thermoregulation, excretion, and synthesis that the skin performs. And also the combining forms that are relevant for this unit were really worked into the discussion that we just had, but here's a list for you to refer back to them. So let's go over common conditions of the skin. We will start with some skin conditions that influence skin color or the distribution of melanin in our skin. So in general, mutations are changes that occur in our DNA, and they may lead to unfavorable cellular behaviors or cell changes. Mutations in general do not necessarily cause or are not necessarily equated to negative outcomes. But if the mutation occurs in a specific region of the DNA, it may pose unfavorable outcomes for the cell. Now, if we talk about mutations in melanocytes, those cells that produce the skin pigment melanin, this may result or be associated and has been mapped to be associated with certain skin conditions. And one of those is albinism. Albin refers to white. Ism is a condition or state, as we know. Albinism is a genetic condition where the body produces little or no melanin in the skin, hair, or eyes. Melanin also acts as protection against UV radiation, as was mentioned. Therefore, people with albinism are at much higher risk of developing skin cancer, and they often also have vision problems because melanin is not only beneficial for the development of the optic nerve, but melanin also helps with absorb excess light in the eyes, so the color of your iris. And therefore, eyes that lack color or individuals with albinism may have increased eye sensitivity, and their skin will be more prone to sunburn because melanin provides some protection from the sun. So another slightly different skin condition that is associated with melanocytes is vitiligo. Now, vitiligo is unique because it is an autoimmune disorder. In this case, the body's immune system attacks and destroys melanocytes. So in this case, your immune system is destroying the cells that make the pigment melanin. In albinism, this is a condition where the body produces little or no melanin. So there is a disruption in melanin production, whereas in vitiligo, the melanocytes, so the cells themselves, are attacked essentially and destroyed. Therefore, in the regions where the melanocytes are destroyed, there will be smooth white patches that appear on the skin. So interestingly, vitiligo often appears symmetrically on both sides of the body. So often you'll see it on both knees or both hands. And they think that this is associated with following specific nerve pathways or related to the nervous system, but it's still kind of unknown the reason for this. So there's that distinction though, right? Albinism affecting melanin production. Vitiligo is because the immune system attacks our melanocytes. Alopecia is a broad medical term that simply means hair loss. So just general hair loss or lack of hair where it would usually be. There are many types of alopecia, and the most common, more disorder version, if you will, is alopecia areata, and I'll type it here. Alopecia areata. There we go. So in alopecia areata, this is an autoimmune condition. Your immune system mistakenly attacks hair follicles, So the hair follicles are attacked by the immune system, and this stops hair growth, typically in round patches at first. But the result is general hair loss, specific regions. Sometimes it can be more widespread patches or just smaller patches throughout, like the scalp, for example. But it can occur on any surface of the body. And this is different from just, hair loss associated with aging, because this is hair loss unrelated to age. It can happen in young individuals due to the immune system mistakenly attacking hair follicles. So sometimes in autoimmune disorders, and that's why we call them autoimmune. Auto means self. The immune system is attacking your own cells and tissues and mistaking them as foreign, because our immune system's role is to attack foreign pathogens. But autoimmune disorders involve the attack of our own cells or tissues, mistaking them as foreign when they aren't. On the flip side, what do we think happens when our melanocytes increase growth and density in small clusters on the skin in particular areas? When this happens and melanocytes grow and increase density in a small cluster, this brings rise to a mole. Moles can be influenced by genetics. Sun exposure also causes mole formation, and also hormonal changes are associated with moles. And many moles are benign, but they are brought about typically by either genetics or from the sun, bringing rise to moles. Moles that are caused by sun exposure can undergo cellular changes over time, and if specific mutations are caused in those cells from the sun in specific DNA regions, then these mutations may cause the cells to divide uncontrollably. This can lead to a mole that is cancerous. Now, there are different types of skin cancer. We mentioned these earlier in the term, but basal cell carcinoma specifically affects the epidermis. So the stratum basale, that basal layer of the skin of the epidermis specifically, if those cells become mutated, then this is called basal cell carcinoma, and it will appear like this. It'll be visible and erupt at the surface of the skin, and it's the most common form of skin cancer. We can see many of these facets of detecting a cancerous mole in this particular mole, right? We can see asymmetry, so one half is unlike the other. We can see in this region in particular, the border is blurry and jagged as well, especially in this region. There's more than one color. We see a darker red here and darker red regions throughout with some lighter regions. And the main thing, as I mentioned, is evolution over time. Changes in moles are one of the, is the kind of largest sign that the mole could be cancerous. Squamous cell carcinoma is actually more aggressive than basal cell, and it is the second most common type of skin cancer. So cancer of the squamous cells that make up the epithelial tissue. And finally, melanoma typically develops from a mole and grows uncontrollably. Melanoma can begin very small. We see those features again in this particular melanoma, and they are highly malignant. So this type of skin cancer has a high probability of spreading to other areas of the body. Merkel cells are cells that exist in the skin as well, and Merkel cell basically growths or cancerous growths are also a possibility. So now let's talk about some skin conditions that are associated with some redness or blotchiness. And we have two photos shown here of eczema and psoriasis, but we'll start with acne. So acne is a disorder of the skin that consists of, or a disorder that is associated with the region near a hair follicle and its associated oil gland. So what happens is when the oil that is produced from the sebaceous glands mixes with dead skin cells, it plugs hair follicles. And if bacteria become trapped beneath this plug that forms, this triggers inflammation and it results in, papules, so pus-filled or pustules, pus-filled growths or cysts. So it is most common face, back, chest, because these areas have the highest density of sebaceous glands. So a clogged sebaceous gland is the cause of acne. And it's highly associated with hormones. So shifts in hormones bring rise to an increased prevalence of acne, particularly influencing the production by sebaceous glands. And so it's common around the onset of puberty when there's large hormone shifts. Eczema, also referred to as atopic dermatitis. Eczema is often described as an itchy rash, if you will, and it is primarily an allergic or inflammatory reaction. So when the skin's protective barrier becomes irritated, this leads to the leak of moisture or escape of moisture and causing dryness of the skin. And also irritants, allergens can more easily get into the deeper layers of the skin. The immune system then becomes involved, causing the characteristic red, itchy, and scaly patches. So eczema is largely associated with a irritated or damaged protective skin barrier. So in specific proteins that help to form the skin barrier, the balance of oils on the surface of the skin, and this can lead to eczema. So when we see, again, these red, itchy, scaly patches. So that is eczema. Now we also have psoriasis. Psoriasis is actually a autoimmune condition, and it speeds up the life cycle of skin cells. So it causes cells of the skin to multiply abnormally quickly. In healthy skin, cells take quite a while, around a month, to rise from the deep layers of the skin, of the epithelium, to the surface. In psoriasis, the immune system signals the skin cells to multiply in just a few days. And so because old cells can't shed fast enough, they pile up on the surface of the skin, creating these thick, silvery scales and itchy red plaques. So because old skin cells can't shed fast enough due to this high skin turnover and multiplication of skin cells, the cells pile up on the surface and we get these thick, silvery, itchy, red plaques on the surface of the skin. So eczema is often found in creases of joints, like inside the elbow, whereas psoriasis is frequently found on the outer surfaces, so the outer tips of the elbows or knees. Now, if we take a peek here, we can see these visual differences. So with eczema, there's more hazy borders. There can be weeping and crusting. They're a lot more wet looking because of that hypersensitivity and allergy, basically barrier failure of the skin. So immune fluid is going to be brought here. And again, it's typically on the inside of joints, whereas psoriasis has more defined borders, these silvery white scales, and it's more dry looking. And it's an autoimmune condition associated with rapid cell production. So here's an activity that we can practice matching the specific skin conditions to a given case. So I encourage you to pause the video and practice with matching up the conditions, and then I'll take them up in a moment. Okay, so hopefully you pause the video there. So red itchy patches with dry skin and inflammation. Now, in this case, red itchy inflammation, this case would be referring to eczema. Now, the difference being here is that rapid skin cell growth producing thick, scaly plaques refers to psoriasis. Sometimes eczema can be associated with weeping skin, if it has become severe or if itching is involved, that can cause the skin to break, and then the formation of fluid buildup in this area. But in general, eczema does tend to be associated with drier, itchier skin. And again, case 2 being psoriasis, that rapid skin cell growth with thick, scaly plaques. Number 3, darkly pigmented lesion on the skin with irregular borders and changing color. If you thought melanoma, that would be correct. So melanomas are very darkly pigmented, very irregular, and they will evolve or change over time. And finally, caused by the buildup of sebum produced by oil glands, this would be acne. So that wraps up our discussion on the skin. Now we are going to move on to musculoskeletal. So the integumentary system is, again, our body's outer layer. Now, just beneath the hypodermis, so beneath